When the financial world feels like it's in constant motion, how do the big players actually plan for the future? Well, today, we're doing something pretty cool. We're going to pull back the curtain on Duckhome Capital's official white paper and break down their entire playbook for structuring wealth, straight from the source.
I mean, that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Doesn't matter if you're a seasoned pro or just getting your feet wet, the market's constant chaos can feel, well, overwhelming. Finding that clear, steady path forward is the real challenge, and it's exactly the problem Duckhome Capital says it's here to solve.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the core challenge every investor faces. Then, we'll meet the company that's positioning itself as the solution. After that, we're diving deep into their strategy playbook. And finally, we'll see how they build trust and what their vision for the future looks like.
Okay, first up, the investor's challenge. Because before we can even talk about solutions, we got to really understand the problem they're setting out to tackle. According to their white paper, it all boils down to these two things: an uncertain environment and an ever-changing market. And look, we're not just talking about the day-to-day stock market jitters. They're talking about a fundamental state of unpredictability. And what that means, they argue, is that those old school set it and forget it strategies, they just don't cut it anymore. You need something that's both structured and incredibly adaptive.
So, if uncertainty is the villain of our story, who's the guide? That brings us right to Section 2, where Duckhome Capital steps in and introduces itself as a partner for growth.
So they got their start back in 2019, and right from day one, their mission was laser-focused: professional services, risk control, and wealth growth. You can kind of see their journey right here, from building a really customer-focused system in the beginning to earning the reputation they have today for being transparent and stable.
So what's their DNA? What makes them tick? They say it all comes down to these three pillars. First, there's integrity, being upfront, clear, and building trust. Then you've got innovation, which is all about using technology to get a leg up. And finally, excellence, this idea of aiming for top-tier performance with every single call they make. These are the foundations of their entire operation.
All right, now for the main event, the strategy playbook. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty, the how, the actual methods they're using to navigate these tricky markets.
You can basically boil their entire investment philosophy down to this one phrase: prudent judgment. That's all about making careful, well-thought-out decisions, not just jumping on the latest bandwagon. And flexible response? Well, that ties right back to what we were just talking about, being designed to adapt to that ever-changing financial market.
And this right here really gets to the heart of how they've evolved. They talk about this big shift from the then, relying purely on experience and gut feelings, to the now, which is all about being data-driven. The whole point of using big data and AI is pretty simple: make the analysis faster, make it more accurate, and at the end of the day, create a way better experience for their clients.
So what's actually in their toolbox? They point to 4 key things. First, diversified portfolios. That's a classic for managing risk. Then, the big data and technical analysis we just mentioned. Third is dynamic adjustments. That's their flexible response in action. And it's all built on a foundation of really deep market research. Okay, so a killer strategy is one thing, but what's holding it all up? That brings us to Section 4, built on trust. This is all about the human support system that works behind the technology. At the core of their trust model is people. The paper makes a big deal about their expert team and their deep experience, but the thing they really hammer home is the team's focus on long-term stability. They're making it clear they're not day traders chasing a quick buck. They're architects trying to build sustainable growth.
Risk control can be a bit of a buzzword, right? But they get super specific about what it means to them. It's not some afterthought. They see it as a core, proactive part of their strategy. Every single investment gets put through dynamic evaluations, systematic reviews, and even scenario simulations before they pull the trigger. It's all about ensuring asset safety from the get-go.
And listen, this isn't some one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter service. They tailor their support depending on who they're working with. For individual clients, the focus is more on personal consulting and custom-fit advice. For the big institutions, it shifts to these highly sophisticated portfolio strategies and deep research support. A different game plan for different needs. So to really back up that whole trust thing, they have this 2-layer compliance system. First, there's a full-time team on the inside making sure everything is by the book. But, and this is key, it doesn't stop there. They also bring in outside third-party auditors to regularly check their data and assets. It's a system designed for total transparency and security.
Okay, we've covered their strategy and their support system. Now for our last section, looking to the horizon, where we get a peek at their vision for what's next.
They're really zeroing in on 4 big things for the future. First, a global vision. They're looking to expand into emerging markets. Next is ESG integration, which is huge in finance right now. It's about factoring in environmental, social, and governance issues. Then, tech deepening, which basically means they're doubling down on data and AI. And finally, strategic partnerships to bring in even more expertise.
And this quote from their mission statement, it really just ties it all together perfectly. Our mission is not only to manage funds, but also to establish a long-term and trustworthy partnership. So for them, the end game isn't just about the numbers on a balance sheet. It's about building a relationship that's meant to last.
And this is the ultimate goal, the grand ambition, to build a complete investment service ecosystem. It's this idea of weaving their team, their tech, their strategies, and their partnerships all into one seamless system, with one single objective: creating sustainable, long-term growth for their clients.
Which, of course, brings us right back to the big question we started with. In a world where uncertainty is just the new normal, what's a financial partner really worth? Though Kelm Capital's answer, laid out right here in their playbook, is a blend of careful strategy, data-driven innovation, and that all-important human trust. And ultimately, what that's worth? Well, that's the key question every investor has to answer for themselves.